But literally everything on the inside of these units is defendable. It's built the way it is for a reason, with a massive amount of industry experience. These are not just campers that were built to build because we wanted to get into the RV market or the camper market, and we figured, oh, let's build something that, you know, let's pull some specs out of the sky and build something. Not at all. These campers were built specifically with a massive amount of purpose, with proven reasons behind everything, and we're very proud of that. And you know, we build a good product that solves a lot of problems for folks in this particular category, which is the kind of the off-roading, four-season, very versatile camper, where you don't want everything in the moon in the camper. You want a nice light pickup camper that's gonna be able to, you know, allow you to tow all your other trailers and maybe just have a good easy ride going down the road, where everything is designed nice and low forward. The structure is a proven structure, you know, and I can get into structures and all of that later. But you know, 54 years of manufacturing on purpose, not just manufacturing on purpose, that counts for something. And we have packed it into this little build, and we couldn't be more proud of what we're doing with these. But that's not to say not always improving. All right, this fishhook is about to leave, and before it does, I've been getting a lot of questions about the interior of these, and I was wondering why. And I'm like, well, they're up. Those are answered on the website. But as I go up on the website, there's a lot of You know, you guys are right. There's a lot of okay, well, what's the interior look like? And so I figured I'd do an interior video walkthrough of these things, of one of them at least. Anyway, so right here, we'll kind of start on this side, and we'll kind of go around over here and kind of explain the interior to you guys. We'll leave the exterior alone. But for those of you who may not know, we build these things up here in the great old Alaska. We've been manufacturing custom campers for 54 years up here, and about 4 years ago we developed the Fishhook, and we had been wanting to develop a camper in this category for a while. And then there was one gentleman who came along, and he was so close to a lot of the stuff I had on my list, and he and I went back and forth and critiqued, and I was like, you know what, let's make that a product. And he was just an awesome gentleman. And anyway, so that's a story for another time. Let's go ahead and start over here and go around like this and see what this is. It's very simple. Very simple. So the whole idea here is this is a 40 below four-season camper, and that's what so many people have asked us to do. And so every single thing you see inside the interior here is built the way it's built for a particular reason. So let's jump into it. I'll close this door because those guys are making a bunch of noise. Let me shut off this fan too. That way you guys can hear me and it's not like a jet in the background. But so anyway, here we go. I'll explain why this thing in a second and why it's built the way they are. But over here we've got a split level counter, and the reason for the split level counter is the 20-pound propane tank. Now we put a vertical 20-pound propane system in here. There are some campers in this category that have got a 10-pound, some have 5, some have a dual 5 or a dual 10 or whatever it is. And up here in Alaska, guys, this is a 40 below camper. Propane doesn't like the cold so much, so you have to expose the propane to interior temperature. But most of the problem with propane is not at all the propane so much as it is how the propane is being filled. And so what you deal with, and a lot of Alaskans know this, or a lot of people in the Northwest understand this, you go to a gas station and you know, bless their hearts, but sometimes the people at gas stations may have not had enough training or didn't pay enough attention when it came to filling the propane tanks. Now there are some people at gas stations that are fantastic at filling propane tanks, and many of you RV owners can attest to that. There are folks where you're like, I want this guy to fill it because, you know, or this lady to fill it because they just know what they're doing. But here what we like to do is the 20-pound propane tank, because it eliminates a lot of those problems. You can go and roll into any department store in any town, just about at any gas station, and just swap out with Blue Rhino or AmeriGas. And I know across the country and in different parts of the state, that's always different with whatever brand it is, but you can swap out your regular barbecue bottles really easy. You know those tanks were filled properly for the most part, purged, filled, everything's good. So that's why we would go with the vertical propane, because it deletes most of the problems you get when you have propane appliances. Okay, so that's why the split level counter. We take the sacrifice on a nice even space for the reliability of the propane. Down here, we have got a furnace back here. It's tucked into this cavity, this bay, that is a 20,000 BTU furnace. Okay, propane. Then right up here, and the thermostat is right up top there. Okay, and we'll talk about that thermostat in a second. This is the inverter option, because you can get an inverter installed right down here. Okay, and it runs on the battery bay, and we'll look at that here in a second. You have a dimmer for all the lights. Myself, I personally am very light sensitive, so I have always hated the in-your-face bright LED lights. But you know, you throw them on a dimmer and that problem goes away. That also dims the exterior lights, so if you're at 1 in the morning and you happen to be in a campground, you're not lighting up the entire campground with a super bright light. Then right here, you have USB-C. That's USB-C. You can turn it on and turn it off, right? I'll go ahead and turn it off. But USB-C, and then a regular old 12-volt socket here, right? And then you have a 110-volt outlet. Now this outlet in particular, there's another one down over there, but this outlet in particular, if you select the inverter option, this one is rewired over here. It's rewired into the inverter so that you have an inverted outlet up here at any time. But then you also have a split outlet over there that is only power converter. That way, that one runs when you plug in the generator or to shore power. Then obviously, you know, you need this. Half the time you're going to use a lighter or your ring or keys anyway, but bottle opener, that's kind of nice. This right here, this is standard on every Fishhook, the base model Fishhook. It's the L-Track. Now this right here, many folks say, well, what am I going to use L-Track for? Guys, in a pickup camper, it is, you know, hanging space is a premium. It's, you know, that's something that you don't always get in a truck camper, is a place to hang stuff. And so this is really nice to have, you know. So that comes standard. I hang my frying pans up there. I know they're not going to move around and fall out of a cabinet or something. They're up there, they're secure. And then there's all kinds of other stuff we hang up there. On this side, I hang my fishing net, my waders, and stuff like that. This right up top here is for a camera, okay? That is a switch for a camera option. You can see it says camera option. But that is so that if you have a truck that, you know, you want to have a separate camera monitor in there, you can have it in there. Just turn this on, then the camera's always going to have power while that's on. And we used to wire it through the tail lights, the marker lights. But we found that it was really nice to be able to bring, for safety reasons, the monitor in here, set it on the counter or up there by the bed at night, and you just flip this switch on. It's not going to kill the battery or anything. The battery bay is too big for that. And you just plug it in up there, and then you're good. You have some eyes on the back of the camper outside. So that's that. And then obviously paper towel holder. This right here is the through bolting for the roof rack on the exterior. You want those things through bolted to a sidewall so it transfers that load into the framing rather than having a penetration in the roof. So that's what the bolts are there, and there's another one up there somewhere, right here. We are now wiring all of these for an AC option because we have a lot of people going outside, or a lot of people from the States calling up here and wanting a Fishhook, and they want to be able to have AC. So we went ahead and added that as an option to make it easier going forward. Then this is the water system in these Fishhooks. Okay, that is it. Now right up here, I have a video that I just did on a camper in the shop that we are repairing, and it has a moldy water tank, and that is a beautiful example. It's a moldy freshwater tank. That's a beautiful example of you don't want water on board. And I talk about center of balance and placement of that water and everything. So this is the just a 5-gallon jug. If this thing gets gross on the inside, you just take this sucker off, right? Take it out of there, throw it away. Now these things come with a little spigot, and that's just literally a simple water jug off of Amazon. That's all that is, nothing special. And that's because, you know, you're gonna drop $15 to $40 on a jug like that. You might drop it, snap it, break it. There's no reason you should drop $300 on a water jug, unless for some reason you have that as something you like to do. Then by all means do that. Anyway, this right here, these are the Fisher plates for the awning on the outside. That way they're through bolted, that awning's not going anywhere, but they also are super strong when that awning's flexing in the wind. Okay, single sink. This customer decided they wanted the sink upgrade, so we went ahead and dropped that in there. That is a stainless steel single sink that has a wall drain right out the wall. That's it. That is the water system in this camper, right there and right there. And guys, over and over and over in our custom manufacturing here in Alaska, in the cold area, you know, climate, I cannot tell you how many campers, even $90,000+ campers, our customers have deleted the water system because you try to use the thing in the middle of the winter and you've lost all of that space to the water system. And then, like in that video I linked earlier, I explained that placement of the water, you have all of that space dedicated to the water system. Your center of gravity is higher, the water is in a bad spot, you don't use it half the time anyway, and so it becomes a cumbrance more than something that's actually helping you. And in some cases, some people in truck campers, they want the water system and they need the water system. In this type of a camper, this is a type of a camper you're going to spend maybe 100+ nights a year in, and you're doing fast 2-3 day trips. I can't tell you how many people, the people who have light campers like this that are simple, straight to the point, they camp way more than someone who typically, right, this is not all the time, but typically they camp way more than someone who has a full, you know, 3,500+ pound truck camper. Okay, so then right here we use the Dinette cast iron 2-burner stove. This is a good unit. This thing's nice and strong. It doesn't bend like the wire style that they make. This is just a good stove. But some folks, most of the people that we work with, they don't want a sink or a stove. Can't tell you how common it is. So with the Fishhook, we deleted the sink and deleted the stove, and we decided to make sure that we're going with a good furnace. Instead of making things like this standard, we have made furnace standard. When campers in our category, they make these types of things standard rather than the core system of the unit. So the core system of the Fishhook standard model is a 40 below capable camper with this battery system in it. So we'll jump into that battery system in a second. But this is the table. It's on the Lagoon table system, Lagoon, whatever. Love this table system. It is super awesome. But this also makes down into a bed. Let's go ahead and take that off of there before we look at the batteries. All right, come off of there. Okay, so now we're gonna take this sucker. That drops in there, and this over here needs to be a tight fit, right? That goes there, and then these cushions come down like so. That Velcro is sticky. Right there. These are made to fit tight, and it's because when we build cushion systems, what happens is the cushions separate if they're perfect dimensions, where you don't have to stuff the cushion down into a tight spot. And then while you're sleeping, these displace, and then you're laying there super uncomfortable. And what's the point of spending a bunch of money on a unit if you missed the baseline? You got to be comfortable. Okay, so that's that, and from that side to that side, that is 75 inches, right? And then right here, this is 42, and this is 32. So it's practically a twin, which a twin is 38 by 75. So this is really close to a twin. Okay, so let's put this all back. I won't bore you guys. Okay, get this thing back out of my way. Okay, now, and to give you guys perspective, that's 30 inches wide. It's a 30-inch wide table by 28 inches. But it's got this shape to it so that you can get in and out of here, and you can spin that table in multiple different configurations, have it all the way over here to make it a counter, and the kids can play over there, or the dog can stay on that side, and you have a counter right here. Or push it all the way over into that corner, and you can get in and out of here, jump up on the top, or keep it in that corner. It can be your workstation, but it's enough to have a laptop up there, papers to do your work, or 2 full-size plates. So it's a nice big table still, but it is shaped this way to make it easier to navigate the camper. Okay, very important in a smaller space. But the way this space is designed, it feels really big in here. Okay, so then you got net pockets, of course. These are just for storage. It's nice to throw basic stuff in there. Right up here, these cabinets. Now, why are we doing nets? I didn't cover that. But nets instead of doors, because it's actually more practical, guys. It's more practical to have a net there. You know the stuff is stowed at any given time, nice and secure. This holds it in. But when you have the doors, you can have a door fly open and everything fall out, right? But this is also faster to get to stuff. You don't have to get out of the way for the door to lift up, right? You can get in and out of here really easy. So the nets are nice, but it also saves weight, right? Saves a lot of weight. Probably about 40 pounds per unit. If you're gonna do a quality door, if you're gonna do a cheap chintzy door, then of course it's not gonna save 40 pounds. It'll maybe save 20. These are just sitting up here because that's all the stuff for, you know, you got your awning stuff right there. It comes with a unit, your power plug and everything. This is your 1530 adapter for the generator, all that fun stuff. Then over here you've got your thermostat. We use this thermostat because it's entirely analog. It is the most you know, let's say you're up in Paxton or north of Fairbanks, and those are both very remote places, right? You're probably 4+ hours away from anything, and you have this fail. Well, it's very simple. It's just a mechanical, you know, thermostat that you can you can tell it what to do, right? But they have a low fail rate. This is the on switch. This is the temperature, right? Just a tried and true unit. I could do a cool LCD, you know, LED screen, but the problem is in the cold, they don't necessarily always function. And what's the point of a 40 below camper if you have a simple thermostat that can't even run in the cold, right? So very good thermostat there. It's not flashy and cool and the newest thing on the market, but it's a tried and true component. And that's the whole point to mission capability, right? Then right here, you got more of that USB-C, and let me shut that off so it's not a slow draw. Not that it's gonna kill the solar panels are gonna handle it. Then you got these curtains. We make these here, right? Very simple curtains. These are block out, right? There you go. That's it. That's the curtain. Then your mattress, just a gel infused memory foam. More of the same. Nets for storage. That's a nice place to utilize storages with the nets. Okay. Then we have the smoke detector. Pretty simple. Inside the ceiling right here, there's set spots. These ceilings are SIP panels, and I have other videos on that, but these are structural insulated panels that we build here at the shop. We've been doing those for about 10 years. It's solid 3 inches of foam, so there's no thermal bridging going through the top. It's extremely strong and everything, but it also makes it to where you can't hang things from the roof unless you have a preset spot or unless you're gluing them and all of that. And so inside the ceiling here, there is a couple of spots where there is, like in here and over there, where there's actually 1/2 inch plywood bonded in to that material so that you can screw stuff up there, like maybe a ski hanger or a snowboard hanger. Because when you're out in the cold, yeah, you can leave the snowboards outside, but maybe they're gonna get stolen. But then most people in the cold, they like to leave the snowboards and skis and everything outside anyway, so that they're not warm in the morning when you first want to go out and stick into the snow, right? So most of the time, this is either just a blank ceiling or it becomes the fishing rod holders. It's almost always fishing rod holders. So then another cabinet right here. These are 14 inches deep and they're 11 inches high, right? And then that way, for the 11 or the 14 inches deep, you have Plenty of room. You can throw a laptop in here. You can fit most totes. But the height, usually you end up with about 2 to 3 inches up top here of non-usable space. So we made them shorter, right? The cabinet's less deep, or not as tall, and we made them deeper this way. And then we moved these windows up so that you can have an awning on that side and you can have an awning on that side. So cool little tiny things. They have lights underneath here, right? But also that shallower cabinet makes it easier to set in here. If you're a big dude, you're not going to run your head into the back of the cabinet. So it's just high function, very nice space that there's a lot of stuff thought out that you don't think is important, but it's super important. For like sitting, certain things that are super important sitting here, there's a particular dimension that we have learned over the years is really important to good, comfortable setup, right? And that is a particular height here for the average person. Like, I'm a short dude, right? But this is pretty comfortable for me. My feet are sitting nice and firm here. But then you get a guy 6'5" or so, he is still going to sit in here comfortable because just the dimension of the seat is just right. You know, and sometimes that takes years to find out what those dimensions are, rather than just haphazardly building a space and then finding out that it's not so great. And we've built hundreds of different layouts of campers, not just hundreds of campers, hundreds of different layouts, because we're custom and we've learned those little things, right? So right here, this is a raised floor, and it's for that reason, right? It's for the reason of the nice comfortable seat, so that your legs aren't swinging, right? Because you have, most couples, you have a pretty tall guy and a short lady, and then for him it's great, but for her it's not comfortable. And why shouldn't it be comfortable for both of you? So it needs to be a particular height, right? And that's not every situation, I know, but or you have a situation like me. I'm a short dude, and I don't want to be in an uncomfortable camper. Anyway, so this right here is raised, but it also serves another purpose. It's a nice place for storage. I fit 5 lawn chairs right there. Then I have another couple who built a little drawer for themselves for all their fly fishing gear, right? Great little drawer. That's a 5-inch height right there, 4.5 or 5. Then right here, you have access doors into the bed, and what that's for is for your tie-down system, right? It's for your tie-down system into the bed. But we also, in my buddy's truck and in my truck, we can fit 5 bundles of wood in there, right? You just stuff them in here because there's 4 doors, and you just fill that space and you use it, right? But then these are insulated doors. This is maybe 1.5 pounds, because we do structural insulated panels here. We combine that with our framing methods, and you can see our framing methods in other videos, but this is an interior video. But that's what that is, right? And then you take it, and right there, boom, a little storage spot here. Okay, now the electrical system. Right inside here, boom. This is the heart of the camper. This is what makes it 4-season. You have got 300 amp hour of batteries there. Now, the only change that we're going to make to this bay is we're going to move these batteries over so there's airflow around all of them. That way you don't get any thermal bridging coming through here, keeping the core temp of the batteries too low, right? Then right here, you have this space is set with, I'm going to move that over. That is ducted heat right there into this bay. Usually we have that shorter, and I'm going to cut it shorter when I get off this video. But there you go. There's your electrical system. They're all pre-wired for electric jacks. This couple did not select electric jacks. They decided to go ahead and leave them manual crank. They can do that anytime in the future. But these are salt silicate batteries. They can be discharged and frozen and warmed up, charged 6 months later, and they don't have a memory, right? Super solid batteries for the cold. Very important. Okay, and then that's a aluminum reinforced pan and all of that, so that's important. And then we have a 35 amp power converter, right? And that is a progressive dynamic. It is lithium capable. This is also lithium capable. And once this video, you know, a year or so on this video, these components are slightly changing. They're improving, and so this will look different in the future, but it will be the same Go Power 30 amp face mount charge controller. right, for the solar. That's the solar, and this is a power converter, so that when you're charging from your generator or your shore power, you're getting your power converter is doing that work. But the power converter in a cabinet face mount like this is doing three things. It's your charger for your batteries, it's your 110 volt, right here. That's your this here, and then your AC option up there as well. And then it is, again, it's your charger, and then it's also your distribution for your 12 volt side. So it makes the user interface really nice and clean. And then of course you can see right here you have your what all of those breakers are. And then this runs on the power converter. Okay, so there's that. And then this is given extra length here, this Romex here going into the power converter side, because if they decide to upgrade to an inverter, then we simply unwire that particular circuit out of the power converter here and we wire it into the inverter, right? Very simple stuff. Make everything easy for yourself later in the future. Now this charge controller is a very tried and true, we've used different ones over the years, but it's a very tried and true charge controller. You can see we're getting 14.2, and the weather outside today is overcast, borderline gray skies, and we're still charging. It's been on and off raining all day. There's a right way to do an electrical system, and this is it. We can get into that at a later time, but there's a reason we do it the way we do it. This charge controller is down low and in this cabinet, and all of this is here to keep the electrical user interface in one place so you don't have it distributed all over the camper, right? That's very important. So this right here is currently running 380 watts of solar. That particular charge controller is capable up to 580 watts. Okay, but the reason we heat this bay is because the core temperature of your battery, if it is low or if it's cold outside, let's say this sucker is on here and it's 15 or 20 below outside. Well, you're going to lose battery capacity if that is a little refrigerator pocket. You have got to heat that bay, heat that area, so that your batteries are going to get maximum capacity, but also if you're running your generator in the middle of the winter, your batteries are warm and they can actually take that charge. Very, 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 very critical there. Okay, but that also just happens to keep the dinette nice and warm because the discharge for it is over here, right? And so you get this nice little ambient heat in the dinette all the time. And that's really important. You don't want to have so much heat in the dinette that you're getting sweaty on your feet, right, to put it bluntly, but you're getting enough that it's a nice ambient heat. Very important there, right? And it just keeps good low heat distribution in the unit. That's important stuff. Okay, so that's the battery bay. And let's see what's next. This right here, standard, it comes with a 1450 12 blade Dometic fan, but I personally really like, Dometic. We have a Dometic appliances in here, so I'm a huge fan of the Dometic company. They're doing a really good job, at least as of the time of this video recording, right? Companies go through their seasons, so they do a good job. But I think in the category of a fully electric fan that can run in the rain, I think MaxxAir does a better job, so we do offer that as an upgrade. That's just a little bit of feedback there, Dometic. Not trying to beat on you a little bit, but you do a great fan here for the 3 speeds with reverse category. But when it comes to the the higher end fan, I think MaxxAir is winning. So anyway, that's my opinion. The MaxxAir is a good fan. So we're not at all about one company is doing the best in everything. There's some that are doing better in other categories. Right here we have got another 12 volt. It's got the USB, the USB-C. Let's turn it on so you can see it. USB-C and regular USB outlet, and then you have your 12 volt socket. This is what the refrigerator plugs into, and this can easily be swapped out for the Dometic 2-pin or just the 12 volt 2-pin plug, no problem. Right now in the shop, I have got a Fishhook. They're actually moving. Let me go look out there. They're moving a few Fishhooks right now around, and so they one of those over there, we're putting. The guy has ARB, I believe it is, cooler. I'm not as familiar with them, but we've already got it installed on that one. because he has a particular type of plug that he wants to use, and that's fine. That's what this whole space is designed for. You can see this space is designed for a refrigerator or a cooler or whatever. Maybe you throw an ice fishing tent there, or maybe just a bunch of gear, firewood bundles, whatever. You don't need a cooler, who knows. This is designed to be able to be modular enough that you can take this thing out. Maybe if you are somebody who has a bad experience with Dometic and you would never run a Dometic cooler, then use your ARB or use your Yeti or use whatever, you know, Walmart brand refrigerator. Use whatever you want. The space is designed for that. Sometimes here in a couple weeks I'm going out dip netting. We do dip netting out here in Alaska, where we go and we can get 60, depending on the size of your family, 60 to 100 fish at a time. Salmon, like in the Copper River or down on the Kenai, and you know, you need a cooler for that. You don't necessarily want a nice clean refrigerator. You want a cooler. But for me, sometimes, like on those trips, if it's going to be a 3-day trip, I bring this thing loaded with ice, keep it on freezer mode, right? And then I go fishing, get my fish, and then as we're getting the fish, the ice comes out of here, goes into the coolers, and that way you don't just have soup, because down there in Chitna, you might not be able to get ice, right? If it's the weekend or if it's closed or you're fishing in the middle of the night. So there's different, you don't want just a traditional RV fridge where you're stuck with one spot, unless you're that type of person, because we do a lot of builds like that where, yeah, go ahead and get that fridge. If you want to dedicate that space to a vertical fridge, do it. But for me, this is what I like. I personally think that the Dometic fridge is just flat. They do a good job. It's a good 12-volt fridge. This is the 75. It's the dual zone. But yeah, there you go, guys. That's that. And then down here, this is one that has been missed in a lot of pictures and everything, and videos. This is where the porta pot goes. The way we do this is every one of these things comes standard with a cinch strap like this. Like I've got a guy right now who has a luggable loo, and ooh, look at this. This is not good. If my crew is watching this, I don't like this. You didn't do a good job here. You see that little tail on there? Don't do that. That's not good. You always pre-drill the hole, and you don't have tails on your fasteners. Anyway, so this right here, he has a luggable loo, and so you can put that in there. I have some customers who have their own porta pots they really like. They don't want the Dometic. We use the Dometic porta pot, the 970 series, and it goes in there. But you know, use what's good for you. And then you have a fire extinguisher right here, and then over here, yeah, safety stuff. We have a CO2 and propane alarm. Now these things go off for everything in the world. And safety alert, I have a bit, if you're watching this video ever, I have a bit of a critique for you. Sometimes these things, they go off in the middle of the day when it's sunny outside, and it's only when it's sunny outside, and then it cools off, or you open a window and they stop going off. So this is a necessary evil. We as a manufacturer are required to install them in a dwelling where there's a propane system or an electrical system. They have to be there. So it's kind of a necessary evil, but this thing is giving me fits. Safety alert. So if you're watching, that's some feedback for you. That's one of those to-do list items. Anyway, right here, these lights work out the exterior, and then one of these works this interior light switch right there, and that's so that if you're in the parking lot or you're pulled off on the side of the road, you can have all these other lights off, and you can operate the interior light from down on the ground, and it makes it a little easier to see inside the camper without jumping up inside here. Okay guys, that's about it. That's the Fishhook interior here. There are future upgrades that are always on my mind, and like right now I am really considering making this bench, or we call this a bed stop. This bed stop, instead of making it a nice solid permanent one, I'm thinking about making it one that will slide in, it'll latch into each side, but then it's also a bed extension, so it can come out here and essentially you have a bunk right here, and you have a big massive king bed, or it comes out and it sets over on this side to where you have a bunk on this side, and then you have your bunk down here. But anyway, that's can always be an upgrade in the future on any Fishhook, even ones that are 2 or 3 years old. But that's one that I'm thinking about. And then right here for this cooler, a lot of people ask me about this. Why is this? We have exterior storage on this, and you can see that in other videos. But right here, this is here specifically for this thing to come out, because I didn't want to put this thing all the way to the back and then have dead space here that you're not using. So it's a nice little spot to put all kinds of stuff, seasonings, racks, gloves, all kinds of little gear sits right there. And then on the outside you have a spot for chains, for straps, for an axe, a ball glove, you know, maybe a little bit of oil, oil cans, things like that. There's a spot for it on the outside where the dirty stuff can stay outside. And it's just a little 4.5 inch, you know, pocket of space, but it's that full length on the exterior, and it makes for a nice little spot for an extra cubby, right? Okay, guys, that's the interior. This armrest right here is here because when you're sitting in a spot, you want to be comfortable, right? You want to be comfortable, and being comfortable is a big deal when you're out camping. That's why you drop all the money in the first place, is you want to be a little bit comfortable. You don't want the Taj Mahal, but you don't, you know, you want to have some comfort to it. But that's why that's there. That could easily be removed. Some people want it removed so you could sleep this way as well, but all kinds of stuff. Then this cooler can also go, and we make a cushion that can go there, so this can be an extra seat. So you can see it's raining outside, it's cold, you want to bring your 5 buddies in here, or whatever, 5 people, 4 people, you can all fit in here comfortably and sit in here for a long time out of the weather if you have that cushion there. All right, that's about the end of it. After I'm done with this, there's going to be something I'm like, oh, I forgot to talk about that and talk about that. But literally everything on the inside of these units is defendable. It's built the way it is for a reason, with a massive amount of industry experience. These are not just campers that were built to build because we wanted to get into the RV market or the camper market, and we figured, oh, let's build something that, you know, let's pull some specs out of the sky and build something. Not at all. These campers were built specifically with a massive amount of purpose, with proven reasons behind everything, and we're very proud of that. And you know, we build a good product that solves a lot of problems for folks in this particular category, which is the kind of the off-roading, 4-season, very versatile camper, where you don't want everything in the moon in the camper. You want a nice light pickup camper that's gonna be able to, you know, allow you to tow all your other trailers, and maybe just have a good easy ride going down the road, where everything is designed nice and low forward. The structure is a proven structure, you know, and I can get into structures and all of that later. But you know, 54 years of manufacturing on purpose, not just manufacturing on purpose, that counts for something. And we have packed it into this little build, and we couldn't be more proud of what we're doing with these. But that's not to say not always improving. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching. I hope this was helpful for those of you who have had a lot of interior questions on these things, and we will catch you on the next video.